Hi everyone, welcome to a short overview of the point-and-click adventure called What Happened to Rosa. This is a sub-project created collaboratively by Educat Collective, Unicode Collective, trans historian Kai Brust, together with the participants who took part in the workshop and helped us generate the content for this game. Special thanks we want to say to Fina, member of Educat Collective, who created all the beautiful illustrations to this point-and-click adventure. My name is Masha. I'm also part of the Educat Collective and I will present the game to you. So let's start. At the very beginning, before we start playing, we have an option to choose the language. We can go for English or German language at the moment. Hopefully in the future we would be able to also add more languages. Let's choose the English language for now. Then we see the introduction to the game, which tells us that the story happens in 1934 in Berlin. We, as a player, have a friend whose name is Rosa, and she's a trans woman. The goal of the game is to find out what happened to our friend. There is a certain time frame that we think is enough to complete the game. It might take a little longer. The estimation now is 20 minutes. And we also make sure that we give a trigger warning, as some parts of the content in the game might be sensitive. So when you proceed with the game, please proceed with care for yourself. Before we start interacting with the story of the game, we have to choose a bag where we will collect different stuff that we interact with. So I would go for the fourth bag. I like blue color. This is the area in Berlin and the street name that we see on the screen. There is also a sound of birds and the street behind. As the user plays the game, there is this cloud which sends us the message which we have to take into consideration before we proceed with the further steps. So at the moment we see 3 post boxes, and the cloud with the comment tells us that we want to check the mail. So in order to check the mailbox, we need to have a key, and that's what the cloud tells us. It's basically the hint. And since we have a bag with objects, that's the right time to see if it's empty. We actually see that there is a key there, and we can try to apply it to the keyhole on the post box right in the center. It works. And we find out that there is a letter inside, a letter from our friend Rosa, which we click to open, and we see that there is a note saying, "Please take care of my cat. Sincerely, your friend Rosa." We find it rather strange that Rosa asks us to look after the cat, because she doesn't give us any more information. Why is it needed? Did she leave? What happened to her? In the next picture, we see a busy street in Berlin. Also, we notice the flags, typical for the 30s in Berlin. In the next picture, we appear in front of Rosa's apartment. To get into it, we obviously also need a key. For that, we would maybe check our bag again and try to use the key from the post box, but it doesn't seem to work. We could try to just open the door, but the door seems to be locked. We could try to look under the carpet. Seems empty. We could try to ring the bell and see if somebody's home. That also doesn't seem to be working. We could also try to look into the post hole in the door. That also doesn't seem to work. And there is another object that is available for us to interact with. That's the plate saying Rosa's Schneiderei, which means Rosa's tailor shop. We look behind it, and indeed we find a key hanging behind it. So we collect the key to our bag. And to open the door, we have to use the key, put it in the keyhole. The key fits, we can get inside. In the next picture, we see a cat getting out of the window. That must be Rosa's cat. And in the next picture, we appear in the apartment and see basically its interior. There is a big bed staying on the right side. There is a sewing machine. There is a chair with some box on it. There is a plate with the rest of the fish on it. Must be Rosa's cat's food or what's left of it. Clothes that we see in the shelf that is out of the kind of a wardrobe. There are some things also lying on top of the wardrobe. At some point, the picture disappears and we hear very worrying noises. Somebody is knocking at the door and trying to open it. So what we could do is we could try to open the door with the key that we collected before. And once we open the door, we see the note that actually tells us we shouldn't have done that because we are taken away by the secret police, by Gestapo, and we are taken to interrogation or are even later arrested. So basically this note shows us that it was not so safe to be in Rosa's apartment, and that what most probably she also didn't find safe and had to leave somewhere. So there is more historic material telling us that that often happened to gender non-conforming people during the Nazi rule, that they were in danger of being denunciated by their neighbors or by people who accidentally saw them, people with anti-Semitic motives or other motives. So people really were endangered. To not be so mean to the players of the game, we actually give an option to proceed, to start over, and that is not a big deal for us because basically we didn't have time to do much in the apartment. So we continue and get back to Rosa's room. So we try to interact with the objects that we see. So for example, there is a book on the bed. We can try to click on it and we see that this is a book written by Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, and we also get a comment saying that Rosa has mentioned his name before. And from the material that pops up, we learn that Magnus Hirschfeld was a gay sexologist and a doctor, and he provided a lot of help for gender non-conforming people. He wrote many medical reports, and because or due to these medical reports, he helped trans people, for example, to obtain medical care and legal recognition. We can proceed interacting with some of the objects. But unfortunately, we don't manage to do this because there is a knock on the door and someone is trying to get in again. But we are smart this time and we will not open the door because we know that we are supposed to be silent and wait until the knocking and the people who are doing the knocking disappear. So we just wait, we do nothing, we stay calm. And at some point, we hear the footsteps. That means people who knocked on the door actually walked away. So after we were patient enough to wait for people to leave. We get a note that this was a secret police. They had tasks to do house searches and to terrorize gender non-conforming people, and of course not only gender non-conforming people, and that we did a good job not opening the door so we can continue the game. So we can try to interact with other objects in the room. For example, we can try to interact with the plate and rests of the fish on it. And the comment tells us that the fish is not there, it's just a skeleton of it, so Rosa's cat must be really hungry. We try to click on a small piece of paper laying near the sewing machine. It tells us again the name of the tailor house that Rosa was basically owning, and the tailor house or Schneiderei is actually Rosa's home. That's where she worked as self-employed from home. And this is also something that the historical note tells us, that facing everyday discrimination, queer people had to very often become unemployed. They were forced to be unemployed, or they became unemployed themselves and were forced to be self-employed so that they can freely and more safely work from home. Let's try to interact with another object. For example, this box standing on the chair. Here we find a fish, which is a bit smelly, but still the fish gets into our bag. To not keep a smelly fish in our bag, we can try to put it directly on the plate. For the cat, which is supposed to come anytime soon. We saw it leaving from the window. Now we can try to interact with other objects. So for example, there is a messy pile of clothes on the floor, but there is a note laying there, so we can try to read what's on the note, and it says, "Saw you in a dress." And this object gives us another information of gender non-conforming people being forced to actually hide when they wanted to wear the clothes that was not viewed as appropriate. This could be a reason for them to be denunciated by neighbors or people who see them in these clothes. So reading this note, we understand that somebody threatened Rosa. Let's try to interact with other objects. There is another note laying on the wardrobe. And this is basically a note about police appointment. And we see that there was a certain time that Rosa was supposed to be in the police office. And the historical note tells us that even if people, trans people, were able to receive a transvestite permit or license that allowed them to wear the clothes they wanted, or choose the name they wanted. Still, in the 1930s, the situation with the Nazi rule escalated, and in a lot of cases, people were deprived of their transvestite permits or licenses, which made them a very easy target for Gestapo. This note makes us even more worried, because we're thinking that maybe the police took Rosa, and still we have to find out what happened. We are not sure. We can also interact with the diary that lays in the wardrobe. And unfortunately, in the diary, we don't find any concrete information where is Rosa, but we get the idea that is coming from the historical note that a lot of trans people or queer people, gender non-conforming people, had to leave the place where they used to live, and very often they were separated from their friends and partners and family, and had problems reuniting with them because of life-threatening conditions they were living in. Let's get back to the game. There is another object we can interact with, and it's a box of mammoform. We see from the comment that the box with mammoform is empty, so Rosa took it with her. And from the historic note, we read what actually mammoform was. This was a so-called hormone medication that, for example, was intended to promote breast growth, so was used sometimes by trans women. There is something happening. We see that cat appears in the picture, happy to see the food and to get its fish. So the moment we're not able to interact with any objects, we're just watching the cat eat. Now that the cat is done eating, we can try to do something. There is one object that we still haven't interacted with. It's the picture hanging on the wall. So when we click on it, we see a real picture actually from a queer bar. And we get the note that Rosa also used to hang out in this bar with her friends a lot. But during the Nazi regime, there were a lot of raids happening on queer venues, and so a lot of bars were actually closed. That's all the information that we get from the picture. There are a couple of more things that you could do with the apartment. So, for example, you can collect this object, which is the letter opener, that could be used for something. It goes directly into our bag. And there is some more stuff that you can do. For example, try to pet the cat or do something else with the cat. So we don't want to give away all the hints that would actually make the further game not so interesting. But we are pretty sure that you will manage. And in the end, you will find out what in the end happened to Rosa. And just a final word to finalize the short overview. We want to say thanks to Unicode Collective, who managed to implement this whole point-and-click adventure with the code and make all the objects move and make sounds. Amazing thank you to our collectivista Fine from Educat Collective, who drew all these amazing illustrations that we can enjoy. And thanks a lot to Kai Brust, who is a trans historian and provided us with a lot of historical, very accurate background material. And also special thanks to the participants who took part in a workshop and helped us create some of the content, helped us with the ideas what objects could be in the room and how we can interact them so that it's actually interesting for the player. We hope you enjoy the game, even though the content we are discussing is not very exciting or joyful. We still hope that this game gives some historical educational information and also brings more light to the lives of gender non-conforming people during a Nazi rule. Thanks again. My name is Masha. I'm a collective member of Educat Collective, and we hope that you enjoy the game. You can find more information about this point-and-click adventure and also about other projects done within the framework of Queer Identities in Different Times project in the description to this video. This project was founded by EVZ Foundation.